Hi everyone, this is day 4 of my Unreal Fellowship blog. Today is Thursday and we have had a bit of a different day today. Started off with the live lab, which is sort of an opportunity to go in and ask some questions. So I had some questions about materials in Unreal, particularly glass that wasn't importing properly when we're using the new nanite system. So opportunity to ask that question, but actually it was quite nice just to dive out of the lessons for a little bit and focus on the ideas and the projects, because we don't get any time to work on that and we have to deliver it at the end of the course, so you need to take these moments to work. I have to confess is that I fell asleep in that chair at lunchtime and I missed the beginning of the second lecture. It's just been that full on that I sat down, I was sort of just drifting off and thought, what's going on? And next thing I knew, the lesson had started around me. So it is pretty full on. What I've been working on the last 2 days, well certainly since last night, was a lot of research on the story idea. So I'm going to walk you through the project's backstory. Now this story is now immense. It's on a scale of an opera in its own right. Wagner would be proud. So this is all backstory. Now if I go to my Miro board, this is an asset that I found on the marketplace for Unreal, which is a captain's cabin. This is going to be the structure of the scene, is going to be set around this. Now they're encouraging us to use existing assets. The whole point is that you build worlds out of assets that you can kit bash, and there's loads of stuff already in here for the world that the artist created, which I'm not going to use. So there's bottles, there's treasure, there's maps. None of that's relevant to me. What I need to do is to take this basic structure and reconstruct it around the story. And I've only got to do a 45-second fly through. So in 45 seconds, enough information needs to be revealed in the world to reveal the story that I'm about to tell you. Jumping to Evernote quickly, this is kind of the research I was doing as background. So I've been researching the Flying Dutchman, who they were, who it is. Actually, I spelt Van der Decken wrong. It's actually Van der, spelled, I'll correct it here, Van der Decken. Dutch captain. There's quite a few different names for who the captain of the Flying Dutchman could be, but this is the one that Wagner picked. I'm very interested in gods and mythology. I've sort of mixed loads of stuff together here, because things that I found quite interesting was the fact that he prayed to the devil, or he swore to the gods rather, that he would sail forever and not reach land if he was saved from the storm. So that's become quite a key theme, and I'm very interested in the sort of the background of the mythology around the gods and how sailors believed in them. So I've been doing a lot of work in looking at Jupiter and Titan. And I'm going to explain all this when I go into the story, but just so you can see some of the research I'm getting of all the different gods. There's some really interesting parallels that I've drawn between the story of the Flying Dutchman and the lost ships and the timings of things that happened around that period of history. So quite a lot of research. This image I'm going to come back to in a bit. It's very, very interesting and I want to connect it. So the most significant part is that he threw the Bible overboard when he threw his first mate overboard, and he emptied his pistol in the clouds in torment when he couldn't get out of the storm. It's a 7-year cycle. He can only go back to land once every 7 years when he can be with a woman, which I haven't fitted into the story yet, but I think that's the basis of Wagner's story, is that he falls in love. There was a comet that they saw. I need to get that in somehow. It's interesting that there was over 5,000 lambs, I've read the word lamb. 5,000 ships were lost on the Cape, all hands lost, sort of in that sort of 200-300 year period, and really bad storms. The storms are created because the weather fronts from the east and the west meet around the Cape of Good Hope, which is the southern bit of Africa. So let's jump into my Miro board and I'll take you through my story. So these are the artworks that Midjourney created, which I talked about before. I created these off of the brief that was given to me by Epic Games, which is a complicated set of sort of styles and genres that I need to sort of merge together. The ship was not part of the story. It was all about the world that they dictated. So there's something that I need to merge together, this sort of science fiction spacey fantasy with organic plant material. and there's an astronomical theme. So let me take you way back this very complicated journey. So first of all, there was a big battle. So a lot of this is mythology, a lot of this is real history, and some of this is completely me making up a story. This bit's mythology. There is the Greek family tree and there's the Roman family tree. It's complicated because Titan, which is the name of the moon of Jupiter, is part of the Greek mythology, and Jupiter is part of Roman mythology. So the two gods' family trees have been merged together here. I'm just sort of ignoring that. So Titan is the name of the Titans. These are the fathers and mothers of the Greek gods, and they were defeated by the Olympians. So Kronos, being one of the Titans, was defeated by the Olympians. I've sort of merged that a little bit here with the Roman story, because a lot of these gods are paralleled. So Hades is Pluto, regards the underworld. Poseidon is Neptune, of the sea. So we've got these three main characters: Jupiter, Neptune, god of the sea, and Pluto. And we create another character, Titan. Titan being representative of the gods that were displaced by the children, who would be these three. Okay, so what happens? Neptune has been positioned over the Cape of Good Hope as his home, his throne, because that's directly above the portal to where Pluto has been banished to as part of the backstory of the Roman children. Pluto has been given the power to start Judgment Day when humankind finally rejects all gods, which would be today, right? Or at some point very, very soon, because it's getting that way. Titan created the Doomsday Book. So back when the battle was raging, the Olympians were fighting the Titans. Titan had the Doomsday Book, which is a manual that would start the Judgment Day. Judgment Day would come, and he gave it to Pluto because Pluto was guarding the underworld. He was the one that wanted the death of everyone because he wants everyone to come to the underworld. So Pluto and Titan are working together to guard the Book of Judgment, the Book of Doom. But Pluto kept it in his city of Atlantis. Yes, which was destroyed by Neptune in an effort to get rid of the Book of Judgment, because Neptune and Jupiter wanted the whole world to continue to exist with humans. That's what they fought for. They fought the Titans to have human beings roam the planet. So it was lost in the city of Atlantis when it sunk, and there's some nice images there of the city of Atlantis and the Book of Judgment. The book, however, was... Although Pluto thought it was lost forever, a Spanish sailor found it because Atlantis was in the Mediterranean next to Spain and it washed up. So he gave it to the future king of Spain, who kept it for generations unaware of its significance. At the start of the 17th century, human beings were no longer just walking on land. What the Titans were defeated for was to allow humans to walk on Earth, and now we're sailing into the realms of Neptune and beyond his reach. So Pluto now could extend his reach. And during this period of the 17th century, around 1650 to 1660, lots of things were happening in the world and across the solar system, and this is all fact. We have things like the Black Plague, we have the Great Fire of London, we have wars across Europe, particularly Spain, England and the Dutch. The Dutch were fighting for their independence from Spain in the 80 Years' War. That was also the time when the great spot appeared on Jupiter, which was discovered by Galileo. But Titan, the moon, was discovered by Huygens, who is a Dutch scientist. So this is where I'm trying to connect together lots of different things from history and mythology. Spain was defeated by the Dutch in the Spanish War of Independence. So this allowed Holland to have independence. They had the treaty written for them, the Treaty for Peace written for them on the most sacred piece of paper, the most sacred parchment that Spain had, which was a Doomsday Book. This is the bit I've invented. This is actually it. This is the thing that the peace treaty was written on, which is stored in the Dutch Royal Archives. it's a fantastic contraption. If you play the video of it, they lift it out and everything unfolds and it appears like something very theatrical. It was very inspirational to see it come out. And this is just literally the King of Spain's treaty. However, for my story, it is the Book of Judgment with the peace treaty written on it. So the Dutch then had it, and when it was presented, it meant Pluto saw it and went, it hasn't been lost. So he wants to track it down. Now, the King of Spain, it was being guarded by Van der Decker, who is a captain of the Flying Dutchman, a Dutch naval vessel. And there's a connection here to the Dutch East India Company that I'm trying to fit in. But he will travel with the book to keep it safe. He's taking the book and the peace treaty to the East Indies, where the Dutch are setting up their base, and this is the home of the Dutch East India Company at Fort Orange. And you can see from this map all the places that they were working in. This is the Dutch East India Company's map here in the Dutch East Indies, moving out this way to what is now Malaysia and Indonesia. But they had to travel via the Cape of Good Hope, the south of Africa. So the king sends Van der Decker with the Book of Judgment out to the Cape of Good Hope. Van der Decker is in a hurry because there's so much wealth that comes from the East Indies. He wants to get there quickly so he can have more time to fill his own pockets of wealth on his way back home. But this, of course, opens up the journey to Pluto's realm. So Neptune has been trying to guard humanity, stopping Pluto from leaving the sea, but they've come into the sea. They're getting closer to Pluto, and as the Van der Decker takes the Flying Dutchman round the south of the Cape of Good Hope, Pluto gets hold of him and grabs the Flying Dutchman in a storm, a giant storm, which is worse than anything that's been seen before. So what happens then? He prays to the gods to save him. All right, so I'm going to come back down here now. This is where the story goes on. So he's traveling around the Cape of Good Hope. He swears to the gods that he will, if he succeeds in his mission, he will sail until Judgment Day. It's very significant. And I've got some notes here about the planets. Now I've linked the gods to the planets as they have been in the name for these gods. The gods that he prayed to was Neptune, because it was Neptune's storm. Okay, this is why the gods are so relevant. This is why that original battle is come around full circle. Okay, so that Book of Judgment was created by the gods, and Neptune is the one that Van der Decker swears his soul to save him. However, because he's Dutch, this is why I'm taking a bit of a leap, Van der Decker is praying in Dutch. The only planet or moon in the solar system that has been named for a god by a Dutch scientist is Titan. Titan, the gods who were defeated by their children. A human being is praying in Dutch to the gods, right over where Titan was defeated. So Titan answers the call, answers the prayer. He is in alliance with Pluto. He wants the book to be given to Pluto to create the Book of Judgment. To create Judgment Day, to remove human beings from the planet as they intended from the first place. So Titan, in anger at being named at an inferior moon, it's inferior to Jupiter, he starts punishing Van der Decker. I don't think that bit fits, actually. I need to take that out. Neptune steps in, however. He wants to save Van der Decker. He wants to stop the Book of Judgment, because that was the battle they fought. They fought to save humanity, and if Titan and Pluto succeed in getting the Book of Judgment, or Titan succeeds in getting the Book of Judgment to Pluto, he will destroy humankind. So Neptune calls on his brother Jupiter to help. They are all aligned with, like Pluto and Jupiter are cousins, so they need to work together. So Neptune can't stop this storm, even with his powers of the sea. So Jupiter creates a storm himself, the storm that is now the red eye on the planet. okay, which happens to emerge in 1665, which is the time that the Flying Dutchman was lost, literally, within a few decades of each other. So that prevents Pluto from getting Van der Decker, because the storm on Jupiter is merged, like the two worlds are merged. This is where like a bit of fantasy comes into it. The Flying Dutchman is flying through the storm of around the Cape of Good Hope and emerges in the storm around Jupiter, and that's the gods moving the Flying Dutchman out of Pluto's reach, with Titan just going around Jupiter, just keeping seeing just outside. Now, the Great Spot may have been accurately sighted at the same time as the Flying Dutchman went missing, but one thing that I've taken a liberty on is that the storm takes 4.5 days to go round in a circle. I'm pretending that it takes 7 years, because that's the story of the Flying Dutchman. Van der Decker is allowed to leave the storm every 7 years because it goes in a loop. He's stuck in this torrent for 7 years, and when he comes out of it, he's allowed to try and return home. However, you can't go from Jupiter to Earth without passing Titan. Now, part of the story of the Flying Dutchman is that Van der Decker has to roll dice. He has to play a dice game to be allowed to be freed from his torment. Every time he tries to return to Earth, Titan is waiting for him as a moon, physically there blocking him. He has to play dice, and if he wins, he gets to return to Earth. However, he is not allowed to stay on Earth for longer than a day. This is again part of the Flying Dutchman story. Why not? Now, the thing I've come up with is that when he is there, if he's there for more than a day, the planet will spin around and reveal the Book of Judgment to Pluto, who would be able to cause a storm to bring him back. So before he gets back round to the point where Pluto can grab him back, Jupiter has to move him back to the storm. So he's now caught in this endless cycle for forever and ever of going between the storm in Jupiter and the planet Earth for just one day. Now, part of the story that I haven't fitted into this yet is the fact that he has a long lost love who he returns to every 7 years, but I don't think we need it. There's enough here. So that explains the 7 year cycle that he's stuck in. Now, the other thing that's quite interesting about this is that each time he returns, he collects something from Earth on the day that he is there. He's allowed to make landfall in that one day, and he uses it to augment the ship so that it's more capable of sailing around space and Jupiter. So the Flying Dutchman starts to become modified, and I think every 7 years for 500 years or 380 years since it went missing, it has had something added to it, and now it's this hybrid of today's technology and the past. And of course, we can take that a bit further and say, well, what would it be like in 200 or 300 years' time? It would have elements of science fiction and space on it as well. So that explains why the Flying Dutchman has been augmented in such a strange way, and includes all of these very odd integrations of technology, such as this picture shows. Sort of lots of bits of metal and maybe slightly steampunk, although steampunk isn't my theme. And the trees, because they're growing trees. And I want to use the apple. The apple is really significant in lots of ways, because it was the temptation of Eve, of course, but it's a fantastic metaphor for sin and for temptation, which we can build into the symbolism of peace. So this cabin has to try to incorporate all of this storytelling. So if this was going to be a 5-hour opera and this is just the first 45 seconds of the overture, how does this world prepare us for that 5-hour story? And all that symbolism in a very theatrical way is going to be embedded into this. So that's what I'm up to with my story. What I need to do now is to build it. So I'm going to get on with it.